Eli Walker was born in the quiet margins of Texas, where the land stretches wider than ambition, and silence often speaks louder than words. His childhood was shaped by two forces that never truly met: his father, a hardened cowboy who believed only in endurance, and his mother, a gentle woman who whereupon late into the night, weaving patience into every stitch. From an early age, Eli learned that survival was not a matter of comfort, but of responsibility. His father taught him how to ride before he taught him how to speak his feelings. His mother taught him that creation, even something as simple as socks, could be an act of love. Yet Eli rejected her world. He believed softness was weakness. Years later, when debt closed around him like a tightening rope, those forgotten lessons would return. By the time Eli turned 40, the ranch was no longer a legacy, it was a liability. Loans stacked upon loans, each one justified by hope, each one fueled by fear. Eli worked harder than ever, yet sank deeper. Psychology teaches that people in crisis do not fail because they lack strength, but because they lose clarity. Eli lived in reaction mode. Every decision was driven by urgency, not intention. One evening, sitting alone on the porch, he finally stopped running. He acknowledged a truth that changed everything. The debt was not the enemy. His unconscious behavior was. That night marked the beginning of awareness, the moment he reclaimed authorship of his own life. Eli began practicing stillness. Each morning, before the sun rose, he sat in silence. He observed his thoughts without judgment. Fear surfaced first, then anger, then grief. From the principles of mindfulness, he learned that awareness does not remove pain, it removes illusion. For the first time, Eli saw himself clearly, a man driven by pride, afraid of vulnerability. He remembered his mother's hands, steady and patient, looping thread through thread. Creation required no rush, only presence. That memory softened him, and in that softness, a new strength emerged. The idea arrived without drama. Eli simply picked up knitting needles one morning. One pair of socks, thick, durable, designed for men who stood all day in dust and sun. He did not call it a business. He called it practice, discipline, identity. From habit psychology, he understood that consistency reshapes character. One pair became two became 10. The socks carried something rare, authenticity. When he sold the first batch at a local rodeo, Eli realized something fundamental: people do not buy products, they buy meaning. The fire came without warning, a short circuit, the insurance report said. To Eli, it felt like judgment. The workshop burned fast. Yarn, wood, old tools, years of quiet rebuilding erased in an hour. Eli stood across the dirt road, watching the flames eat what little stability he had built. His chest tightened, not with panic, but with recognition. This was the moment psychology books described but never softened: the relapse point. In crisis psychology, this is where identity fractures. A man either returns to old patterns or integrates loss into growth. Eli felt both impulses collide. His first instinct was escape. His second was stillness. He remembered a simple rule he had learned: do not make permanent decisions in temporary emotional states. So he did nothing. He breathed. And for the first time in his life, he did not run. The next morning, Eli called every customer. No marketing language, no excuses, only truth. Some hung up, others listened. A few surprised him by placing orders anyway. What emerged was not charity, but trust. From behavioral economics, Eli understood that transparency reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is what people truly fear. By exposing his vulnerability, he lowered the psychological barrier between himself and others. Integrity, he learned, is expensive. It costs pride, comfort, and sometimes speed. But it compounds like interest, slowly, relentlessly. Rebuilding forced Eli to confront a new temptation: scale for the sake of escape. Bigger machines, outsourced labor, faster money. But self-awareness intervened. He recognized the pattern growth used as avoidance. He paused. Instead of expanding blindly, he designed systems, that reflected his values: fair wages, limited production, exceptional quality. Modern psychology teaches that misaligned success creates internal conflict. Eli chose alignment. The business grew slow but stronger. The day the accountant confirmed the first million in revenue, Eli felt nothing, no rush, no victory, only quiet. This, he realized, was the final illusion falling away. The belief that external success resolves internal tension. It does not. True wealth, Eli now understood, was nervous system stability, the ability to remain present under pressure. Money amplified who he already was. It did not redefine him. That night, he sat on the porch again, yarn in his hands, breathing in rhythm with the land. The journey was no longer about escape. It was about authorship. Eli began practicing stillness. Each morning, before the sun rose, he sat in silence. He observed his thoughts without judgment. Fear surfaced first, then anger, then grief. From the principles of mindfulness, he learned that awareness does not remove pain, it removes illusion. For the first time, Eli saw himself clearly, a man driven by pride, afraid of vulnerability. He remembered his mother's hands, steady and patient, looping thread through thread. Creation required no rush, only presence. That memory softened him, and in that softness, a new strength emerged. The idea arrived without drama. Eli simply picked up knitting needles one morning. One pair of socks, thick, durable, designed for men who stood all day in dust and sun. He did not call it a business. He called it practice, discipline, identity. From habit psychology, he understood that consistency reshapes character. One pair became two became 10. The socks carried something rare, authenticity. When he sold the first batch at a local rodeo, Eli realized something fundamental: people do not buy products, they buy meaning. Success attracted attention. Journalists, investors, mentors. One investor offered rapid expansion, factories overseas, automation, exponential growth. The proposal was flawless. The numbers seduced him. But Eli noticed his body tighten. Self-awareness had taught him to listen beyond logic. He declined. In leadership psychology, intuition is not mysticism, it is compressed experience. Eli trusted it. Being seen, he learned, was not the same as being known. And he no longer wanted to perform a version of himself for approval. Eli began teaching not motivation, but decision-making. He told his students, "You are always choosing, even when you think you are trapped." He taught them to track emotions before actions, beliefs before habits. Financial collapse, he explained, begins internally long before it appears on a balance sheet. Some students left, others stayed and rebuilt their lives slowly. Eli did not measure success by numbers anymore. He measured it by coherence. Years later, Eli returned to the same porch where the crisis had begun. Nothing dramatic happened. That was the point. He stayed present. He stayed honest. He stayed. Self-knowledge had not made life easy, it had made it real. And that, he understood, was the rarest form of wealth. Eli had always believed that fear belonged to beginnings, to hunger, to debt, to nights when the future felt like a locked door. What he did not expect was fear after arrival. It appeared quietly, without symptoms dramatic enough to name. He noticed it first in the mornings, when his body woke rested but his mind searched for urgency and found none. For decades, pressure had structured his days. Now, in its absence, something inside him drifted. Psychology describes this moment with clinical detachment, post-achievement disorientation, when external goals are met but the internal hierarchy is not yet reorganized. Many people relapse here, not because they fail, but because they no longer know what to chase. Eli recognized the danger. He began studying himself the way he once studied debt, patiently, without judgment. He tracked not money, but mood, not productivity, but meaning. He noticed how anxiety surfaced not from threat, but from stillness. The fear was simple and profound. If nothing is broken, who am I without fixing? That question followed him for months. He did not rush to answer it. Lucas arrived one afternoon with collapse written into his posture. He spoke fast, eyes restless, hands clenched as if holding onto something invisible. Debt, divorce, shame, the familiar triad. Lucas wanted a system, a blueprint, a guarantee. Eli listened and said very little. He had learned that desperation seeks solutions the way drowning seeks air, violently and without patience. Giving answers to worry only deepened dependence. Instead, Eli offered structure, silence before speech, routines before goals, tracking emotions alongside expenses. Lucas resisted, accused him of withholding, left, returned. Change did not arrive as insight. It arrived as repetition. Days where nothing dramatic happened but discipline remained. Weeks where habits outpaced motivation. Eli watched closely, resisting the impulse to intervene. Psychology had taught him the hardest lesson of all. Rescuing someone often satisfies the rescuer more than it helps the rescued. Respect, he had learned, looks like restraint. As Ellie's work expanded, so did expectations. People wanted access, unlimited, immediate, emotional. Gratitude slowly mutated into entitlement. Late-night messages, personal crises, requests framed as urgency. Eli felt the familiar tightening in his chest, the early signal of burnout. He now knew how to read boundaries. Psychology warned are not walls. They are filters. Without them, even purpose becomes extraction. Eli acted early. He limited hours, clarified roles, reclaimed solitude. Some people accused him of becoming distant. Others respected him more deeply. What surprised him was how much calmer his nervous system became once his life stopped being publicly accessible. Self-knowledge, he realized, is not only introspection, it is protection. Without boundaries, even meaning corrodes. One evening, reviewing accounts that once would have thrilled him, Eli felt only neutrality. The numbers were strong, the projections sound, but the response was gone. This, he understood, was not ingratitude, it was evolution. Wealth had quietly redefined itself. It was waking without dread, saying no without guilt, choosing without fear of collapse. Money had solved money problems, but awareness had solved something deeper, the constant internal negotiation between who he was and who he pretended to be. He closed the ledger and stepped outside. The land was quiet, familiar, honest. Eli no longer measured success by expansion. He measured it by stability, not financial, but internal. For the first time, nothing in him was trying to escape. There was no crisis to announce it, no fire, no debt, no headlines. What collapsed was subtler. Eli noticed it one morning when he woke before dawn and felt no urgency. For years, urgency had been his engine. Fear sharpened him. Scarcity gave him direction. Even success, at first, had carried an edge, something to defend, to prove, to protect. Now there was none of that. Psychology rarely prepares people for this phase, the moment when survival is no longer required, but meaning has not yet reorganized itself. Many call it peace, others call it emptiness. Eli felt both, layered and easily. He still worked, still taught, still produced, but the internal pressure that once defined him was gone. And without it, a question surfaced that no financial metric could answer. If I am no longer running, who am I standing still as? This was not depression. It was exposure. Books had warned him, when the nervous system finally relaxes, unresolved identity questions rise. Eli didn't suppress them. He sat with them. Let them eat. Growth, he realized, had a second cost. Not pain, uncertainty. Eli found Anna's old address by accident, folded inside a box of tax papers and photographs. Her handwriting on the envelope was calm, precise, like her. He did not write to her immediately. Instead, he wrote a letter he never planned to send. He wrote about provision mistaken for love, about silence confused with strength, about how success had not repaired the damage of absence, only clarified it. From therapeutic psychology, he understood something late but fully. Closure is not granted by others. It is constructed internally, through ownership, The letter was not an apology seeking forgiveness. It was a confession without audience. When he finished, he did not feel relief. He felt alignment. He burned the letter that same evening, not out of fear, but out of completion. Some chapters of life do not require reconciliation. They require integration. Chapter 19. What he could not teach. Lucas returned years later, steady now, composed, quietly competent. He had rebuilt his finances, started a modest business, regained trust with his family. "You saved me," Lucas said. Eli corrected him gently. "No," he said, "I refuse to save you." This was the distinction most people never learned. Guidance is not substitution. Support is not rescue. Responsibility cannot be outsourced without cost. In the psychology of autonomy, dependence is often disguised as loyalty. Eli had worked too hard to recreate that trap. "What can't you teach?" Lucas asked. Eli paused. "That the work never ends," he said. "Only the panic does." Self-knowledge did not eliminate fear. It changed its volume, its authority. The most dangerous myth, Eli had learned, was the idea of arrival. There was no final version of the self, only increasing honesty. On the porch, where the story had begun, Eli sat once more with yarn in his hands. His fingers moved without effort. Muscle memory. Presence. He thought of his father, endurance without reflection. He thought of his mother, patience without recognition. Only now did he see how both had lived partial truths. Life, Eli understood at last, was not about domination or surrender. It was about participation. The books had been right, though none had said it this simply. Awareness precedes change. Responsibility precedes freedom. Meaning is not found, it is practiced. Eli did not feel complete. He felt coherent, and that coherence, quiet, unmarketable, unglamorous, was the real inheritance. The business continued. The money remained, but they were no longer the story. The story was the man who learned to stay.